Back home in Jamaica, when we greet friends, we say, "Wagwan." So Wagwan, DSU State. Thank you so much for that kind introduction and welcome. I feel like I am among friends. Allow me to salute Chairman Leroy Tice and other members of the Board of Trustees, the academic staff, and other executive leadership of this great university. And I thank you for this kind invitation and honor. Special thanks to your president, Dr. Tony Allen, a visionary and inspirational leader. Dr. Allen has pursued cooperation with Jamaica, and now hundreds of Jamaican students are accessing postgraduate studies through Delaware State University. And as you have just heard, 38 students are now a part of this 2024 graduating cohort. It is my pleasure to have the opportunity to address this audience of officials and dignitaries on the platform, well-wishers gathered here, and of course, you, the DSU graduating class of 2024. We are all proud of your journey and achievement, and today we celebrate you. Now, as a parent myself of university students, you will understand if I especially acknowledge the parents and other family members and sponsors, and I gather even employers are here. They celebrate your achievement. Let me join you, the graduates, in saying a big thank you to them for their sacrifice and contribution to your success. They are fulfilled through your achievements. You can only repay them by paying forward, ensuring that your children, the generation coming, have the best educational opportunities possible. Securing generational access to education is the surest way to create generational wealth and economic independence. It is not so long ago, maybe 33 years ago, I started my own university journey. It was a struggle. I often tell the story that I went to university on an adventure. I didn't know where I would get the first cent, but I had faith that God had a plan for me. With the sacrifice of my parents, my mother, a clerk in the civil service, and my father, a small farmer, by working part-time and by getting student loans, I made it through. Yeah, I made it through. Now, as Prime Minister, I have the opportunity to pay it forward by ensuring that policies are in place to make it easier for students in my country to access student loans, grants, and scholarships. My government has removed the guarantee requirement for student loans. We have removed fees for technical and skills training education, and we have increased significantly the number of scholarships available. Now, as I survey this proud and accomplished audience of the class of 2024, I see some faces that remind me of my younger self, but I see a lot of faces that look like me now. But I'm sure that this cohort will produce some great leaders in their respective fields. Who knows, maybe even another president of the United States? Who knows? Recently, I was with a group of students, and a young lady pulled out her phone, ready to record me, while asking, "Prime Minister, what advice would you give to your younger self?" I later realized that this was a social media trend. I was taken by surprise. But since then, I've had some time to think about what advice I could share from my experience. First, perspective is important. Perspective is important. Life always throws up challenges, obstacles, and struggles. At least that's how they may appear from your station in life, from your frame of mind, from your own understanding, from your point of view. However, obstacles are sometimes stepping stones. Challenges are usually opportunities to be discovered. Our struggles are oftentimes exercises to make us stronger. Our point of view, our perception may not be the full picture of reality. We can benefit immensely by approaching our problems from a different point of view. To achieve this, we must accept that regardless of how much knowledge we believe we possess, there is still more to learn. So we must open our minds to new ideas. Our understanding is never sufficient, and therefore we must seek advice and have the patience to listen and learn from the experience of others. Sometimes a different point of view can be achieved by having the humility to step back from a problem. This is how we gain perspective, the holistic view, the ability to see the picture from the eyes of others, the ability to see the picture outside of the frame. Have you ever seen that picture? The one outside of the frame. That's perspective. With perspective, we can make more thoughtful decisions and find elegant solutions to move forward. The second piece of advice I will share with you today, and which I found useful throughout my journey, is to embrace your struggles and grasp your opportunities. In navigating life, not every struggle is worth fighting. Not every opportunity should be taken. But there are some struggles and opportunities that are life-shaping, career-defining, or may even be an important calling for humanity. As Nelson Mandela was called to the struggle against apartheid in South Africa, Martin Luther King was called to the struggle for civil rights in America, and Marcus Garvey was called to the struggle for Pan-Africanism and black consciousness. Today, we stand in a better world because these heroes embraced not just their struggles, they embraced our struggles. I know it can feel overwhelming when confronted with challenges, and uncertain when presented with opportunities. Getting perspective will help you to wisely select your battles and take your chances. In today's world, there is a growing perception that life should always be easy, that we can be successful without sacrifice, lose weight without exercise. I know that none of you here believe that, because all of you have had to work very hard to get that piece of paper that you will take home and put on that wall and point to and remind us that you are now Dr. So-and-so. And you have worked very hard for it. No doubt, however, that there are a few who would be so fortunate. But for the rest of us mortals, we must be courageous in facing what life throws at us. If we give up before trying, we are already defeated in the race of life. Now, at the age of 25, as Tony pointed out, I was asked to represent the last available seat for my party in the 1997 parliamentary elections in Jamaica. No one wanted that seat. It was lost in the previous elections by a wide margin of 30% and considered to be a stronghold for the opposing party. So from any point of view, it was a Herculean task, a losing struggle. My friends and colleagues tried to dissuade me from this course. However, I did my own research, consulted with people who understood electoral politics, and I got to know the constituents. From that, I gained perspective, which showed that the seat was actually winnable, that the votes required to overcome the margin of loss existed, but the voters were not engaged. So with perspective, I took a chance. I mounted an intensive 2.5-month campaign, which overcame the 30% margin of loss from the previous election and gave me a slim margin of victory. However, the victory was short-lived, as our electoral authorities found that there were irregularities in the conduct of the election that warranted the voiding of the results and the holding of new elections. I was devastated. Devastated. And on top of that, my party had lost the parliamentary elections. And so the prospect of finding resources and motivated support to mount another campaign was a real struggle. Nevertheless, I contested the new election with depleted resources, and I lost. But by a slim margin. So I moved from the thrill of victory to the agony of defeat. At the end of that experience, I was financially, emotionally, and physically drained. From my point of view and frame of mind, the situation was hopeless. and it seemed like the inevitable end of the road. A few days after, a senior colleague who was an experienced litigator pointed out that there was still a chance. The extent of documented electoral irregularities was sufficient to have had an impact on the margin of victory, and therefore we should seek to have the results voided again. At this stage, I could have decided, and probably should have decided, to give up. Notwithstanding how I felt, I listened to the advice. I consulted once again with my constituents. But I also listened to the voice inside my heart calling me to the service of the people of Jamaica. So with this perspective, we decided to take the chance once again, and we move forward with the challenge. The results were voided again, and the election ran a third time. I won. And the rest, as they say, is history. I've been serving my constituency and the people of Jamaica for the last 27 years. So get a good perspective on life. This will help you to find your passion, make thoughtful decisions, embrace your struggle, and grasp your opportunities. I will make some final observations. As beneficiaries of higher education, there is a reasonable expectation, indeed a duty, that you will be active participants in your community and democracy. Your university motto, "Enter to learn, go forth and serve," is an important guide as some of you transition from students to assume greater responsibilities in your organizations and communities. Indeed, many of you will be assuming responsibility for students. Today, relative to the known history of mankind, we live in a time of abundance. There are infinite possibilities with the rapid advancement of technology, yet there are so many people without. You know, we are likely to get to Mars before we end global food poverty. The age of abundance is not necessarily the era of equity. Today, we have access to more information than at any other time in the history of mankind. Yet, insularity, prejudice, extremism are becoming more entrenched in our thinking, our community, and in global affairs. We consume content without context. Ever so subtly, our reality is being shaped by algorithms to create or reinforce negative perceptions, unreasonable expectations, extreme positions, and hard lines. Information manipulation is nothing new. It has always been a threat to democracy. But never before could it be done at the scale, speed, and impact that is possible today. In almost every democracy around the world, there is a growing sense of divisiveness, dissonance, and disaffection. The information age, as it is turning out, is not necessarily the age of enlightenment. Bob Marley, a Jamaican legend and global icon in the struggle for liberation of oppressed people, who incidentally lived in Delaware, in Wilmington, for a couple of years, captured this paradox, this dissonance, in the lyrics of one of his songs. The rain a fall, but the dirty tough. Let me translate that for you. The rain is falling, but the earth is still hard. It's a paradox of progress, which creates dissatisfaction and divergence in our democracies. However, there is an optimistic point of view that this paradox of progress, great wealth juxtaposed against so many wants, so much information, yet so much ignorance, will resolve itself automatically over time. Wealth will lead to well-being, and information will lead to enlightenment. How exactly can this be achieved in a divergent and dissonant democracy? Martin Luther King wisely observed, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." I agree. However, the full picture is that the arc only bends towards justice because Rosa Parks refused to go to the back of the bus, because Dr. King himself dedicated his life to bending the arc, because people like Marley use their gift in word and music to inspire and arouse the moral consciousness of people globally. Now more than ever, we need citizens who actively embrace the challenge of our time and engage with enlightened perspectives in community and global affairs. You are the ones to make our democracy work to deliver shared prosperity. I charge you, the graduating class of 2024, embrace the struggle for good. Be the voice of reason in your community. Bring perspective to divisive issues. Balance extremes. Bridge divergent views. And bring stakeholders together to cooperate on local and global problems and find the elegant solutions that will keep bending that arc of morality to greater well-being, enlightenment, justice, and peace. I pray God's richest blessings on your journey. One love.